So if this master model thing is not making sense to you yet, do not worry. Fret ye not. We're going to try to make sense of it. This is the most difficult part for people that have not used the master model approach before. This is really difficult to understand at first. So don't worry if you're not getting it right away. But basically, let's just recap. We created this master model document, and that master model document had surfaces in it, it has sketches in it, and then we imported that document into another file, and then saved a bunch more. Now, the saving a bunch more files was just for the sake of expediency. We did not have to do this all at once, okay? We could do these separately. But now we have a bunch of part files, just open shells, ready to be built into. So to demonstrate what we would do next to build a part, let's just start with the fretboard. All right, so let's select that fretboard file and open it up. And here we have just our import feature, right? So remember, that was our first advantage to using this method, which is that this part, if we were to open it, already has a really long feature tree. And by importing it into a fresh document, we've cleared out that feature tree. So we're just thinking about the fretboard in this document. We don't have to have all of this stuff building these surfaces in here. Now let's hide a bunch of this other stuff we don't need. We don't need any of these surfaces. We don't need this sketch. We don't need any of this head stuff down here. We don't even need these sketches that are going to be used for creating the frets themselves later on. All we really need are the positions of the hole for the soundboard and the outside edge of our fretboard, as well as the curves that are going to define the top surface of the fretboard, and of course the fret positions themselves. Okay, so let's go to the front plane and create a sketch there. And then I'm going to just grab this curve and this curve both and click on Convert Entities, to just copy those straight into our current existing sketch. And then I'm going to click on my line tool, and let's go right up here to the top of our sketch. I'm going to create a line that goes straight to the middle and then straight down until we intersect with this hole, right? And then go up to Trim Entities, and I can trim off this area here. So we're left with just the outline of our fretboard. All right, sounds good. And we can exit that sketch and we're done with it. Now let's remember also that our fretboard is not flat on the top. Remember, we've got some relief and the possibility of even an arched fretboard if we want it. So let's go to our Surfaces tab and do a simple swept surface. Just sweep this curve along this one and click OK. And finally, just to make sure we have enough surface here, let's go to our Extend Surface and just extend out this edge of this surface. And we can bring it out, I don't know, 20 millimeters is plenty, using the same surface extension type, right? So we're just extending the same surface straight on out. Click OK, and we're left with one big surface that is plenty big. So now let's just create our solid. We'll go up to first select the sketch that we want to extrude here in the tree, and then click on Extrude. And instead of blind, let's extrude up to surface. And we're going to extrude right up to this surface here. And click OK. And now the top surface of our model has the relief in it that we want. We can hide this other surface we don't need. And let's go over to our appearances and find in the organic wood materials. You'll find there's some rosewood materials in there. We can find whichever one we like. This one will work just fine. I'm going to drag it out here. And let's just make our part have that rosewood appearance. So anything that we add from here on out will have that appearance. Now, from here, there are a couple of things I want to do before we add the frets themselves. We can hide this whole sketch. We don't need that anymore. So next I want to add some bevels to these edges, and let's talk a little bit about that because there are several ways to do this. Let's do it. Let's show you the easiest way first. I'm going to do a chamfer, right? That's what most people would think. I would do a chamfer on this edge and maybe even just do distance and distance. So I could go, let's say, 8 millimeters on one and let's say 6 millimeters on the other. Click OK. Right, so we've got a little chamfer there on the end. We could do another chamfer here, and this time we have to make sure that the numbers match, right? You could change this number, say maybe make it 3 in this case, but then it has to go down 6 the other way to make sure that these chamfers meet right here at a single corner. If those distances were different, they wouldn't meet up. And that works okay, but then watch what happens here. I'm going to add just a constant radius edge fillet right here along this. And as you can see, when I add this, say 5 millimeters, This is kind of ugly, right? Because we've created a fillet that has this weird kind of hump on it. And that's because of the way that we've built this in a single operation. So I could go here and do one fillet and then do the other, but we end up with actually the exact same situation where we get this weird hump on the corner, and I don't want that hump. Okay, so we have to do something a little bit different. All right, so let's just delete all of that stuff. Let's do this a little bit differently. So first, let's grab our front plane, and I'm going to control drag this up a little bit just to duplicate that plane. And let's say we want to duplicate it, 2 millimeters up. So we've just got a little bit of a flange here at the bottom. And then I can go to, let's say, direct editing and split, cut part, click this top bit and click OK, and that's going to split my body into two distinct bodies. So if we look up here in my solid bodies folder, I actually have a top body and a bottom body that are completely separate. And now I can use a different method. I can say, let's just say I want to do a draft. So our neutral plane for our draft would be the plane we just created. And then we'll choose this face, and we could say 30 degrees will be good. We'll click OK, and that's going to draft that back, right? And then we could add another draft and the same neutral plane. Grab this surface, and 30 degrees will be just fine for the sake of demonstration. And then now we actually have a little more control, right? So we can add a fillet here that's, say 3 millimeters, and click OK. And that creates our first fillet, and then we could come up here to this second body and add this other fillet separately, make that maybe 5 millimeters, or I don't know, that'll work. But obviously this has a different problem, because as you can see, this fillet does not match up with this one, and it's going to take it might even be impossible to make these match up absolutely perfectly. So we are yet again stuck. This didn't work. All right, what do we do? Well, actually, the best way to do this, in my opinion, is to split this in two, like this, so we have our two separate bodies. And here, let's do a little trick. I'm going to go to my direct editing and use Move Face. And I'm going to move this face using the Offset tool. I'm going to offset that back using a flip direction. Offset it back by however much I want. Let's say 8 millimeters back, and click OK. And then do another Move Face, and select this face, and reverse that direction. And I'm going to move that only by, let's say, 3 millimeters. Click OK. And then we can do something a little bit counterintuitive. Let's add the fillets to these surfaces. I'm going to add let's say a 4 millimeter fillet to that surface, and then another 4 millimeter fillet to this surface. And finally, this is where the magic happens. This is a weird technique. Features lofted boss, and I can loft this face to this face, and it just fills it right in. And we click OK, and now we have good control. We can control what this fillet looks like and that fillet looks like independently, and we get a nice smooth transition between them. So this is a really cool way of tightly controlling exactly what we get out of our fillets.